My beloved LinkedIn family, welcome. Today's guest is a man whose story, it reads like a modern-day Exodus. It's a journey of heartbreak, hardship, and ultimately of divine redemption. Meet Dr. Alexander Alperovich, and he's the author of His Grace Was There. And it is a memoir that it just chronicles not just a personal odyssey, but a spiritual awakening from God that's forged in the fire of unimaginable trials. Now, Alex, he was born in Soviet Lithuania, and he was raised in the shadow of two genocides. His mother survived the Nazi invasion, and his father endured Joseph Stalin's brutal regime. Now, he was originally in an orphanage, and he was in a war-torn street, and he endured the iron grip of anti-Semitism and communist bureaucracy. Alex's early life, it was marked by persecution and pain. And he and his young wife, Marina, they fought desperately to escape the suffocating chains of the Soviet Union. They risked everything for a chance of freedom. They were labeled and they were harassed by the KGB, and they were denied the right to leave. Yet through it all, through the border raids, through the strip searches, and the fear of being forgotten, God's hand, it never, ever left Alex. Now, Alex, he arrived in America with two suitcases, and a toddler, and a dream. And against all odds, he rose to become a very renowned interventional cardiologist, and he was saving lives every day. But his miracle, it wasn't just professional, it was spiritual. His book is a testimony that God still saves souls. God still delivers people from Egypt and still makes a way in the wilderness. So please join me in welcoming a man whose life proves that grace is not just a word, it's a force. Welcome, Dr. Alexander Alperovich. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
It's so good to see you. Now, Doctor, your memoir, His Grace Was There, it just reads and feels like a movie, only it's real, it's raw, and it's deeply human. When someone finishes this book and closes the last page, what do you hope sticks with them the most?
First, David, thank you for such kind introduction. The quick review of my early years, which is I describe in some painful details in the book. And the life is actually very interesting, how it happens and how everything reflects in the changes you while you're growing up. And until recently, I didn't have much time to reflect. And then I realized I need to think through this and did some research and talked to my family and some other research sources. And that's a fruit of my work. I put it in the book. In general, what I expect people after they read the book, what do you take home? There's a few messages. The main message which I would like to do, and that's what is in the name, the spiritual growth, the awareness of the God, of the divine. It took me a while to realize that, I would say decades, to how my path was formed and how I was guided, despite of me being unaware. And this goes through the book and shows the reader that line going through how from the person who I was educated and brought up in the society, which is deeply anti-God, atheistic. Atheism is taught and mandated through the education, to the realization that it's actually absolutely wrong, and realization that there is divine intervention, there is the path set up for higher being, and even you aware of it or you're not aware, still things will happen the way it's predetermined by God. And this is the big part through the book, showing and illustrating those examples. Then when I was aware, when I was unaware or less aware, how things were happening miraculously, which I was not even aware, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do anything myself. It's definitely above and beyond of my abilities and possibilities. This is a kind of a main message. There's another message that also is there of the hope. You never give up. You never give up. No matter what adversaries life throws at you, you've got to keep trying, pushing, and search and thrive. Try to thrive as much as you can. A lot of bad things happen in life, and I witness not only in my life, but in the life of my patients. 2,000 stories I've heard. People who continue to fight, persevere. This is the people who get that satisfaction and that knowledge that I've done it, I made it despite of the adversaries, despite of whatever life threw at me. And particularly when that hope and the determination is supported by the firm belief that I'm not alone. There's somebody guides me, and the God makes me to go through these trials and makes me a better person, and I will persevere. And this determination is very important.
Okay. You were born Jewish in Soviet Lithuania, and
yes,
that's a place where your identity was put at risk. I mean, how did that affect you, the early persecution and your family's trauma, shaping your sense of calling, shaping your journey with God?
Yes, I was born in Soviet Lithuania. Lithuania was at the time occupied by Soviet regime, and my parents always taught from very early years certain things we don't talk outside our apartment, certain things you're not supposed to discuss, and you have to sing the song which they expect you to do because sequelae are terrible. So the little facts, like we had a synagogue in town which was non-functioning, and I think I highlighted it in the book. And my dad also, around the Pesach, Passover time, we would order the matzah because there's no other way. So you got to bring your own flour and live in a synagogue. And then after 3-4 weeks, you go and pick up your matzah, a few boxes of matzah. And that's how we celebrated. So we had to go through the back entrance at certain times. Somebody would call and say, you can come now. So we'd come in, drop off that flour, and my dad would say hi to this couple men who are there. He knew them, they knew him, and we go back. And then the same happens when we have to pick it up. And I asked them, why can't we go through the front door? Oh, the synagogue was just closed. When I got older, he explained to me, you got to understand, there's somebody watching everybody walk through this door. You understand? So your name and my name was already out there in the registry. That's how it's done. So they watching how many people got in, how many people got out. They know the names, they know everything. So there's a file in some cabinet about you and me is there. That's how it goes in there. And I didn't understand it at the time. Obviously, I was too young. But then I realized actually he knew what he was talking about. So you always have that behind in the back of your mind, always running, okay, who I say, what I say, where it's going to end up, and how it's going to affect me. So you don't trust people because you never know who other people are. They could be most sincere people, could be your best friend, who is working for who and how, and how it's going to affect you in the multiple levels. So because everybody under surveillance, nobody is trusted out there, and in turn, you don't trust nobody. So that's how you're growing up. And people do disappear. And people persecuted for smallest thing, they're getting many years of the jail time, and you wonder what happened. Person, not a criminal, but that's how the system works. And that's my young years were shaped in this environment. And my parents were the same way. They never trusted nobody. My dad would listen to the BBC at the time on the radio to see the news from outside, and it should be in a room which is pretty quiet, and she would sit in front of the radio and you would listen to what's going on to learn what's happening. But you told me you can't tell anybody that I'm doing that. I was like, really? You see him from all the places?
Yeah, the law, right?
It is, yes, because what the Soviets used to do, they would suppress the station signal. So the signal would not come through. And sometimes, like Voice of America was another one. Voice of America was impossible to hear because it was suppressed. BBC on and off, depends what they were talking about. So that's how you growing up in this kind of environment, you very acutely aware of regime and what they capable of and how they monitor everybody, and a lot of life examples people persecuted because of that. Just listening to the radios, you can lose a job very easily. A job is everything.
That was illegal also?
Say again?
Going to synagogue was illegal?
Oh yeah, synagogue was closed, and the when people were meeting for service, you would never know. It was just a very small circle of people would meet and pray, but that was very illegal. That would be conspiracy right there.
Wow. So
And
you escaped, right?
yes, we growing up, my dad always was talking about us. We got to leave this country. He never didn't have any illusions about it, and mom either, because the family suffered so much. He's part of the family. Stalin did a very good job exterminating them, putting concentration camp and accusing them in all kind of heinous crimes, which they never did. The only crime they did, they were believed in communist ideology and wanted to help to build this ideal society. And the Stalin showed them, okay, let me show you who's the boss here and what I really think about you. So he put him in concentration camp and executed, and his aunts then were in concentration camp, which was invented by Stalin, not by Hitler. Hitler only just perfected it. So he put them through that and ruined their families. And those aunts shared some stories with us, not a lot. It was very painful for them, and they were definitely had a lifelong scars from that. So we were well aware what they're capable of. And my father was close with his family, and so he heard a lot of stories. And some of the stories we told, because one of the aunts, kids were closer, and she was telling some stories, even though she was a teacher and she tried to sugarcoat it a lot of times. But she went through concentration camp herself 5 years, and she had quite horrible memories about it. So and I'm sure she didn't tell me everything, but what she told me was plenty. And I was close with my grandpa, and both grandpas, as a matter of fact, and the oldest, my father's grandpa, who was slightly older, who went through Nazi concentration camp. And
But you say Nazi, there was no difference.
No,
Russia or Germany at that time,
right?
They put people who believed in godly people, in concentration camps.
I think we are more aware of the Nazi exterminating Jews. 6 million Jews were exterminated by Nazis, but less known the fact that Stalin exterminated 20 million people. The same methods, maybe no gas chambers. If you put a conditions where survival is unlikely over 6 months, the result is the same. You in Siberia working in horrible conditions, and all the illnesses out there, typhoid fevers and you name it, in subhuman conditions to live. People don't survive. It's not surprised. So the purpose was the same: get rid of people who we want to get rid of. God. Yeah, particularly who believe in God. So there was a multiple lines of people who Stalin hated, along as Hitler, the same. They're made from the same cloth. And he hated Jews. He hated religious people. He hated anybody who had any aspiration to be advanced in political, could be a threat for him politically. So he hated a lot of minorities in like Tatars and some other minorities in the world. He did the same as he did with the Jews. When Lithuanians got occupied, members of the Lithuanian army ended up in the concentration camp by Stalin, and their families were also all sent to Siberia. He just really used very broad criteria of people who needed to be exterminated.
And you escaped.
But yeah, I escaped in the reality. So when the time came and the Brezhnev cut the deal with the U.S. about allowing Jews to leave, we decided that's a chance. We got to get out. And
was it easy?
It was very difficult. It's very difficult. It's not like I buy a ticket and get the visa and see you later, guys, and I call you when I land. Doesn't work this way, unfortunately. Then it becomes a lot of issues. And my parents tried to time it, this or that, in terms of to leave. But one of the first hurdles was my mom's father, my grandfather. He was very unhappy about her wanting to leave the country, and we offered him to take along. He was a widower. He was alone. He didn't have anybody else, and he lived independently, but he didn't want to leave the Soviet Union. He said he's where he is right now. Life is not perfect for him, but he's content and he doesn't want to leave. So you got to get a permission from your parents to leave. Even my mom at the time was a woman about 40 years old. She got a permission by the Soviets rules at the time. And he said, I'm going to sign the papers. I'm going to let you go. Because if I'm going to lose my job. That's what he was fearing. He hated Soviets, but he was so uncertain to go to and shake up something so he would be in a way. And that was a major problem. My mom couldn't convince him He said, I'm going to let you go because what do you think? Is somebody expecting you out there? He was afraid to take chances. This man suffered a lot from both sides, and whatever he had in his hands at this moment seemed to him, that's okay right now, and I don't want to shake it up. And you're not going to do it either. So until he passed, we couldn't leave.
Oh,
So,
okay. You finally left. You were harassed by the KGB. You were strip searched. Your daughter's teddy bear was cut open. Can you walk us through those moments and this journey?
yeah, it was a lot of things were happening, which is at that time, I think looking back, I realized there was divine intervention in a lot of ways. The way how we got through the border, how I forgot all the important papers, and the trip back, which I didn't think I'm going to make it, but it just happened. And then eventually was a great moment. We got to the customs and they did the search of us, suspecting that we'd taken out, I don't know what they were suspecting, I guess some gems. And then when we already got out, and here we in Poland, we had to change trains in Warsaw. So we got on the train and we so excited about the freedom is coming. Just next morning, we want to wake up in Vienna, Austria, be out of this commies. On the border, the Polish border agents, they searched our compartment, I guess, where we were staying on the train. And as they saw that little plush toy, the bear, my daughter, 5 years old, for her, it was her world. It was everything for her. This her friend. And they just took a knife and opened it up, searching for, is anything hidden in it? She was like,
how old was your daughter at the time?
She was 5 years old.
And they ripped open that teddy bear. That's like for a 5-year-old, that could be traumatic.
And oh yeah, even today, I talk about this when I was writing the book to my daughter, and I asked her about it. She said, "Oh, I still remember that, how upset I was." She's what, 43 years old now? She still remembers that so vividly. Why did it do that to my bear? Yeah, there was definitely mistrust, and all along the way, until we really got away and across the border and came to Austria, then you see that different world. But over there, you are not equal. You much lower grade, so to speak.
And Alex, you were a physician in the Soviet Union.
Yes, I was.
Okay, and then you came to America and you rebuilt your life from scratch. So what was it like going from a respected doctor to a lab tech and starting over? That must have been humbling.
Yeah, when we came in, it was very humbling because we came as refugees. And so U.S. government has certain system in place which they support you. So they put all the kind of social programs, including the medical and food and help with the housing. You feel supported. But meantime, my language skills obviously were not where they needed to be in order to find, as a physician, there's a lot of requirements to practice in this country. So you can do nothing else. And since I went to medical school, I was 16 years old. So I didn't know any other profession. So here you are, you come with language without occupation, and you have to start. And I think I was very lucky, I would say. I met the right people on the way. So at the time, there was organizations called NYANA, which is New York Association for New Americans. And they were handling this type of situations, refugees like me, mostly where they're coming from Soviet Union, but there's some of them from also Southeast Asia. But majority, it was initially created to help the Jews escaping the Soviet Union. And so the woman there, immediately, the social worker, she looked at me. I don't know what she saw in me, but she said, "You're going to be a doctor again. I promise you that." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" She said, "I know." I don't know. I just believe her. I said, "Okay." And so she made sure that I got into the proper place, course. The organization helped me with the textbooks, and they paid for the exam, and they helped me with the work, because I tried to find the work. It was very hard to find anything, but they helped me to get a work at Mount Sinai in the hematology lab as a phlebotomist. So go to the floor and draw blood from people, basically. Minimal language skills you need, and they had some contacts there who they're very sympathetic to people like me, and the director of the lab. Yeah, send him over. We'll see how he does. And so I got a little part-time job, and the rest of it I was studying 60 to 70 hours a week, trying to get my initial test in order to get eligible to start postgraduate training in the United States.
Practice,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. And that was the interesting thing, how things that fall into the places. I remember the one day I was walking in New York. I think I wrote about this in the book. and with my wife, and she needed to see a gynecologist. And because a lot of medical care, whatever I could help, I would. And we had some medical coverage, but they sent us to a specialist. Okay, that's fine. So we went there and we walked out of this, and I remember telling her that listen, this is unbelievable institutions. Look how big is the thing, what is a great name, and how many trainees out there. I wish one day I could be there. And she looked at me, you'll be there. I'm like, what do you know? I don't.
And that was your first wife?
My first wife.
Okay, because you got divorced.
I got divorced, yeah. So she was confident things will happen. Got to be patient, and sure enough, that's what I did my residency.
Yeah, the reason I mention that is your book. It dives into a lot of emotional terrain. You talk about divorce, infertility, estrangement. Why was it so important to include those very personal struggles?
I didn't want to hide a lot of those events, which were adversaries in my life, I would say. The life was nothing in the Hallmark's movies. It's everything is beautiful and the life just goes on and happy ending. It's nothing like that at all. It is all of these trials and mistakes I made. And despite of that, I was still moving along and forward and bettering myself. So even when I didn't realize that when I was in the midst of it, that the things are looking so bad and it's emotional turmoil or like all this uncertainty, leaving the country or going through this whole ordeal, getting out of the country and then getting back into the medicine and be able to go through the training stuff. And there was also a lot of ups and downs and prejudice going on and a lot of misunderstanding. Despite of all of this, I was still moving along and finding myself better on the other side, meeting people who I would never even dream about meeting people along the way who were willing to help me and who would see something which I didn't see, and they would do it to my advantage. And thinking about this now, I think it is not coincidence. Coincidence can happen once, twice, but it's not coincidence. For some unknown reason, right people show up and willing to do something for me. People who don't know me from Adam. And they're willing to move things for me and open that door. And that's what I think is that divine intervention. The people willing to do things for me, not even knowing. They don't know who the heck am I. This is some foreigner with an accent who is trying to do like $1,000.
And you, sir, you went from being an atheist to a devout believer. That's not a small shift. So yes. When did your faith become real?
Through the years, I think that I started realizing those things, that it's not all coincidental, and there's got to be the grace involved. Somewhere along the line, around the early 2000s, probably around 20 years, and 20 years ago, even prior to that, I would say, I started going to synagogue on high holidays and felt its presence. I remember joining synagogue in Florida, although I was not the only high holidays type of synagogue person. But at that time, I remember a conversation with my ex about that I think this whole atheism and atheistic training engraved in my head, it's all baloney. There's definitely divine presence. It is there. A lot of things happening in my life, I start thinking at the time, is not coincidental. There's a purpose for me, which I don't know, but I'm not entitled to know either. I'm not a God. And I remember she was kind of skeptical, very skeptical about it. She's not a believer. She never was. And she was judgmental about
first wife.
My first wife.
So you were going to synagogue in the Soviet Union. You were just going more as a ritual as opposed to really believing?
Initially, yes, but I had a couple of friends who were religious Jews. One of them was a neurologist, and she said, Alex, you got to join a synagogue. I mean, you got to think about it. Then I remember I was going to therapy, and my therapist says, let me introduce you to the rabbi. Why don't you meet with, this is my good friend. He was not Lubavitch, but he was conservative rabbi, a very nice man. And I was meeting with him for a few months, and we talked about a lot of subjects. And it started turning my head. making me think about religion and in a divinity. So that's the time, early 2000, when I start realizing more and more that about the presence of God, a presence and understanding. So that's the time when I start that shift, really, as I said, around 20 so years ago. And that's
shift.
Yeah, it's a big shift. Yeah, it's very gradual, gotta say. It's, old habits don't die easily, particularly when you brainwash. And most, let's not forget, my father, who I have a lot of respect, who was educated in yeshiva and had big influence of his grandpa, who was a deeply religious person. The war, loss of his mother and his brother in the gas chambers, his father going through concentration camp, and a lot of his family cousins were exterminated either by Stalin or Nazis, made him a non-believer. And many times I had conversations with my father, and he always challenges me on that. Why we need to be punished? Why 6 million Jews had to be exterminated? So he has his system of beliefs, I would say, and he's not a believer.
And you believe you're messianic, am I correct?
Yes, I'm messianic. And this is a shift more start happening within the last, probably, I would say, 5-6 years, learning and reading more about that. And
the New Testament. So you accept the New Testament.
Right. And I accepted New Testament and the presence of Jesus as the Messiah, Joshua. And that's I'm still forming. It's a process. It's a process of learning.
It's a process. Alex, I grew up Orthodox Jewish, and I accepted Jesus at 26 years of age. So it's a process. I'm going to switch gears for a second. Let's talk about justice. You were persecuted in the Soviet Union, and then you came to America. You rebuilt your life. You became a doctor, a cardiologist. You had a very prosperous practice. And what happened? Our government, the United States of America, they indicted you. They humiliated you. You were vindicated. But how did that experience reshape your understanding of justice and mercy?
Yeah. In the Soviet Union, I had to deal with the KGB, and fortunately for me, and the only reason is because I expressed the desire to leave the country. Fortunately for me, they didn't lock me up, but they did a lot of damage on the professional side to me, to my wife, to my, at the time, in-laws. And so that's kind of was my experience with injustice, which is from KGB is expected. It's just one of those organizations. So coming here, yes, I was successful. I was able to develop very good practice, doing what I loved, what I dreamed about. Interventional cardiology is a very busy, very involved field, which requires long hours and continuous learning and improvement and adjustment because it's a very dynamic field. And then it hit me. Federal government came with me and accused me of selling drugs for all the things.
You were innocent. You were vindicated.
I was innocent. Yeah, I was accused, indicted. On the indictment read that it was a conspiracy to distribute drugs, essentially. That was an indictment, which involves minimum of 10 years of incarceration if you convicted, and up to $1 million fines, and of course forfeiture of your assets. So that was the heat. So it turned out it'd be nothing even close to that, and it took me 5 long years of litigation, and the federal government dropped this. However, how it works in the system, it got to be something wrong with me, right? And I was explained that my best bet, you do the plea deal and to something very light, which is...
You were vindicated of selling drugs.
I was vindicated on that, definitely. There was nothing about it. It was just it's a part of the campaign that sticks really well. So then you try we'll figure out later, basically. That's approach.
The emotional toil, and then you were married again to your second wife.
And 3 young children.
It must have been very hard on you and your family.
Yeah, it was horrific. These accusations when they came in, and for first year we couldn't get any traction with the government. It was an ordeal. Despite I had very competent lawyers who definitely knew the game and knew all the ins and outs. And it took over a year and a half to two, we start seeing some traction with the government that that's not exactly what it is. Yes, we're going to try.
They don't want to admit they're wrong.
Of course, they're never wrong. They're never wrong. They always right. And that's without going into all the intricacies and boring people with all the how the system works and what is going on in the federal justice system. My attorneys, who very experienced people, told me, you need to do the plea deal and close the chapter and move on.
To something minor. Let's move on to something very positive. I might be pronouncing this wrong, so correct me. You pioneered, is it venous intervention techniques? Am I pronouncing
venous intervention?
Right?
Yeah, I can't say that I was the first, but I was definitely among the very few people out there who start doing this type of interventions and developing treatments and the approaches to the treatment of the venous disease, like blockages in veins and lower extremities.
Okay, I was going to ask you, because most of my viewers are not going to understand what that is. Could you give the novice a little simple explanation as to what that is and what you pioneered?
Yeah, the thing is, in the body, there is obviously the plumbing system, which blood circulates inside the body. So the heart is a pump, and the lungs are your cleaning station. And so blood is pumped to the body, muscles, brain, you name it, every organ. And then this blood drains back, goes back to the heart and goes to the lungs, and the oxygen exchange happens and keeps going, circulating all the time. So the arteries taking blood from the heart to the organs, and the veins taking blood back to the heart. So the drainage system. So those veins and arteries have problems, diseases, so to speak. I'm sure people heard about clots in the legs happen, and those clots can travel to the lungs and kill people, plugging up the arteries. Or it could be disrupt the circulation in the legs, for example, or the arms, and cause swelling, pain, and sometimes the loss of the extremity. It could be life-threatening too. Those conditions can happen for multitude of reasons. Sometimes it could be due to the cancer or somewhere else because people just clot much easier. Sometimes some medications can cause people more prone to clotting. Sometimes blockages develops, narrowings, which is impede the flow, and it causes clot. So it's multiple reasons. It could be spontaneous, could be genetics, could be so many other things. So when it happens, people experience symptoms. It's a whole range from acute presentation when people have all of a sudden leg got swollen, painful, and people miserable, to very gradual worsening. Legs get bigger, slowly by the end of the day start hurting, and then skin changes developing. There could be ulcer developing, basically, which hurts and not healing. So it could be different presentations. And there's a treatments for that. So in the past, it would be use compression stockings, take a blood thinners, and elevate your leg, for example, and give some time. And that's how it was. But then as time going on, it started coming out technology which is capable to break down the clot, opening the narrowing, and restore the blood flow. And that accelerates the healing or prevents the damage, irreversible damage, or catch those clots, not let them travel, let's say, to the lungs and cause a lot of life-threatening conditions. And those interventions are done in the past would be surgery, but it was very involved with a high risk. But then technology started moving forward and develop what we call endovascular systems, which you go inside the vein with a special tiny little tools, and you either remove the clot or you inject special medication, break it down and suction it out, or you put some systems like called stent, which is basically a scaffold which keeps the vein wide open, not the artery, but the vein. And that allows for the body to do the drainage, and then healing of the body accelerates so much faster. So by restoring the blood flow to as close to normal as possible, you allow the body to heal. And of course, you're giving proper medications to help, and it's the whole system. So, and this technology started developing in the early 2000s, and there's a different system. There's a superficial and more deep, close to the bones, and all the treatment modalities are developing. And I started bringing it up to the patients. When I was in Florida, I was doing those complex cases. A lot of specialists were referring because nowhere else to go, and they heard about me and said, "Hey, could you look at this person?" And I had interest in that, myself being a Venus patient. And so I knew that it used to be diseases used to be called orphans of medicine. Veins, who cares? This is nothing. It is a lot. But the thinking started shifting. And so I was among very few people in the country who started getting those interventions, working on it, perfected those, and sharing experience with other people. And that's how I got into the Venus medicine, so to speak.
Again, let me switch gears for a second because we're coming up on an hour. And I really want to talk about God and how God influenced you. Your title, the book, His Grace Was There. It's 4 simple words, but it carries so much weight. What does that title mean to you after everything you've been through?
What it meant, it's my spiritual journey. From the kid who grew up in the communist country, brainwashed into the denying the God, the persecuted if you do believe in God, through the years and decades of my life, going through ups and downs, realizing that, oh no, there is a divine presence. The grace is here all along. You do know or you do not know, you don't realize, and you just think that you just drew a lucky straw. Now it is a divine, and it will shape and affect your life in the ways which you don't even can imagine. But in a very short way, to summarize that spiritual journey and learning and understanding that, and it's not only that, the Father is there, your spiritual Father. You always can talk to him. You're not alone. You're not alone in this world. You're not fighting that fight alone. There is the Father who is always looking for your best interests, even if you don't realize it.
I realize that. Let me ask you this. Someone listening right now, suppose they're hurting bad. Maybe they're in a courtroom. Maybe they just got some bad news. Maybe they feel forgotten. What would you say to them? Not as a doctor, but as a survivor.
The power of prayer, you got to talk to God. You got to let him do his things and leave it in his hand. Because many times we don't see the way. Many times we lost at sea, so to speak. We just don't know. But you got to trust. You got to trust that God has your best interest in mind and will get you through the storm. Will get you where you need to be. And don't lose that hope. Even if it doesn't look good today or tomorrow, it's still coming.
Alex, did you ever feel abandoned by God, all you went through?
If I feel abandoned by God?
Did you ever feel like God abandoned you? Everything you went through?
When you're frustrated, there's a moments in life when you want to say that, why did you let it happen? Why couldn't you soften the blow, so to speak? And if you care about me. But when frustration goes over, you realize it's just a necessary step for you to grow as a person. This makes you stronger. This prepares you to the next step. But yes, sometimes you do have those moments when you think, why me? Why couldn't it be any better? I would be not honest if I said, oh no, I always perfect. It's not true. Yes, there's a moment of weakness. It does happen.
And what stopped you from being bitter? Everything you went through, almost like a concentration camp, and coming to America and being persecuted again. What keeps you happy?
I found this interesting phenomenon with myself when usually in the darkness of the night, I call it the witching hour, 3-4 o'clock in the morning when I cannot sleep. I know you are early riser, but 3-4 o'clock in the morning for me is still deep at night most of the time if I'm not on call, and everything looks very dark and everything looks terrible, and I don't see the exit, and I'm just lost. And then I start praying and asking God, just do what you do, keep me in your focus, and I believe in you, and let me rest. And somehow it puts me right back to sleep.
Could you describe something that brings you joy?
Oh, I love to see my kids succeed. I'm so happy to see their successes. I know it's not granted. Parents many times have disappointments, and sometimes we have too. But when I see they achieve some goals which they had set up, or they learn something new, I'm happy for them. That I love to see that part. I love to travel, like it was my and Sherry's place, go to the mountains and ski. For some other reason, when we're there in the mountains, I get this peace. It just feels great. I'm on a slope, I may be tired, but it's so peaceful. It's so joyful. It's just one of those go-to places to rebalance for me and feel happy.
Now, currently, you're a practicing cardiologist. I have to ask, what happens when your medical practice and your faith in God, your faith in Jesus, when they collide, when they contradict?
Well, it's usually not a collision. You got to see that it's just one of the ways. And many times, people ask me all the time, "Doctor, do you believe in God?" And I say, "Yeah, I do." So I say, "So what do you think would God want you to do for me?" And it's a hard call. I have to align that with what are the patient belief, expectations, and desires, and offer them that advice. And I said, listen, God may not want you to suffer. You may let it go and just, that's what it is, because you've suffered so long. And unfortunately, this illness is eventually, you're going to succumb to it. And whatever left for you, you got to just enjoy and spend as much quality as you can. Quality time with your family, with your children, whatever else is important for you. There's no need to fight it again, and because you're just wasting your precious time left for you. And sometimes I'm the one who's saying, don't give up. I still see the way. But I'm spent, I can't do this. Give me another chance. And God willing, will get you through this. And I've been right and I've been wrong. It's what it is. But it felt very rewarding when you save somebody alive, despite all the odds. So it's not, I gotta admit again to say, listen, it's not, I enjoy it. I love it. And there's the great wins and the great losses. It's just what it is. But many times I think, and I don't know why, sometimes I have this certainty. I know we can get over this. I know we can do it. Let's do it. And I have to, and sometimes people don't agree with me, and that's okay. That's fine. Sometimes people do agree. And this is how it goes.
Okay. This is a personal story you told me that IVF almost cost your current wife, her life.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that, and what did it teach you about love and God?
Yeah, we were trying to get a baby for 2 years, and it was not happening. So we went through all the testing and everything else, and she's perfectly healthy, and I was fine. But then another doc says, "No, you're not fine. You're just old." And I was like, "Wow, that's really nice way to deal with this." So we need to use IVF. Okay. We go to IVF, and he's a well-respected specialist. And we go through the steps, what needs to be done. All of these medications, when they stimulate the ovaries to produce more eggs. And those medications has a little nasty side effect. They're causing that called hyperstimulation syndrome. When this ovaries is overstimulated and start throwing into the body all hazardous material, so to speak, or substances which are dangerous and put your body into the complete havoc, and it can kill. And that's what happened with Sherry. She developed this hyperstimulation syndrome. And I never deal with this because it's not my specialty. It's usually a very narrow field, and the gynecologists who specializing in infertility specialists, that's usually who deal with this. And they see those. We cardiologists don't see much of this at all. But I noticed that, and I started noticing that she's not doing well at all. She's doing bad. And of course, it had to happen over the holiday weekend and hard to get hold of a doctor, you name it. But we got hold of a doctor and we started talking to him, and he's, it's not a big deal. Just let her rest and she'll be fine. And I had that feeling it's not fine. It's not good. What's going on? It may be bad. And so I said, okay, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I read up as much as I could within a very short period of time about this syndrome and treatments, and talked to Sherry and basically said, either we're all going right now to emergency room or we not going to end up real well. So she didn't want to go to the emergency room. She asked me, she said, can you take care of it? I'm an expert, but not in these things, but I understand what's going on, and I can treat you, but it's going to be my first patient. It's you. Somehow she believed me. She said, just start it. If it's not going well, we're going to the emergency room. And so here you are at home. I'm basically opening the hospital and starting the IV, giving medications and whatever else needs to be done. And fortunately, she responded within a few hours. We start seeing she started getting better. And we didn't need to go to the hospital, and then all settled down. And it was just a bad dream.
Well, and you had a beautiful son.
And we had a beautiful son, yes. Healthy, no problems, everything very well. And after that, we had 2 more without IVF. And I'm still waiting for my rebate from that infertility doctor, because I told him nothing wrong with me and her, but whatever.
Well, good luck at that. I have 2 more questions, okay? To the person right now who's experiencing rock bottom, speak to them.
Rock bottom is a relative term. And everything may look very grim at this point, and being in this position is hard. And you don't see the light, you don't see the improvement. And however, you gotta let God do his deeds. As soon as you have that faith and belief that it will turn around, it will get better. It may not gonna be easy, it may be not what you expected. You may not see it at all right now, but you have to believe that it will get better. That belief will carry you through, and things going to turn around and improve. And maybe not what you expected. Maybe not at all what you thought is going to happen. However, the result going to be the same. You'll be in a much better place.
One of my very dear friends, a sister in Christ, I interviewed her on my podcast, Oz and June, a very devout Christian. She said, this too shall pass. And during those dark days, and when things don't look good, or if I'm a little down, I just remember her words, this too shall pass. Alex, what's next for you? Any more books, more stories to tell?
Yeah, I'm actually preparing to working on the drafting the outlining for the book, which is at this point I want to get a little bit of a less personal but more of a story of one man who had to go ups and downs from being an ordinary person, being successful, then losing everything, rebuilding back, and all the what life threw at him and how he handled it. And at this time it's he tells the story to somebody younger about his life, and which gives me more freedom of the look at hypothetical scenarios and throw in all the twists and turns, so to speak, and give a little bit of analysis of that and that type of book. So reflect a little bit, reflection from my personal experience, from what I learned about other people, because I had so many stories out there, which is from patients, and because I love to talk to my patients, I love to talk to people, and they're sharing with you unbelievable stories. It's amazing you do, and I can't just put it in my autobiography and stuff because I got to respect the patient's privacy and stuff like that. But in fictitious character, you can go over those things. You can explore a lot of those interesting stories and share with people. It's amazing. And it never stops to surprise me. You think you've heard it all. You did not.
You're practicing right now in Tennessee. Do you want to tell everyone where you're practicing?
Yeah, I'm practicing right now. I'm in a small practice, which is a more called concierge style practice, which I'm focusing on the preventive cardiology. I am doing a lot of these things, which is important people not to get into the position of the 911 and end up being in the acute setting with acute illness. So catch it earlier, treat it earlier. So that's my practice. And it's a small practice. It's definitely not as busy right now. And I enjoy it. I have plenty of time to talk to the patients. I don't have to rush to the hospital. I don't have many emergencies going on. And so that's preventive cardiology / internal medicine, you can call it, that type of a focus practice. Yes, I'm practicing right now, and I recently opened it up, and that's what I'm doing. It's called MyMD, and the website is mymdtn.com.
And would you hold your book up to the camera? I want everyone to see your book. Okay.
That's
wonderful. Alex, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my story. Excuse me, your story. We're live. I'll edit that out on the
That's okay.
when we do the editing and I restream it. Hey folks, I'm sorry. Thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate it. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
I appreciate you, David, letting me to talk about this book and share with you the thoughts and where I'm coming from. That was very interesting, and you're a wonderful interviewer, leading me through these things. I'm not experienced in this type of, I had a lot of public speaking experience, but not in this kind of format. So I appreciate your help and appreciate you doing it. And I know that about your story and how much you learned. And it's also teaching for me too. Perseverance, hope, and a faith. This is very important in life. Thank you for letting me be on your show.
You're welcome. And everyone, most of my followers have seen my video, The Price of Success. Sherry Ann, that is your wife, who interviewed me in that video.
Right.
And that video is going viral on LinkedIn. Everyone loves your wife. It's not me.
Oh, thank you. Good.
You're a very lucky guy.
I'm not the only one.
Hopefully this will go viral too. Hey, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining me. God be with you all. Alex, thank you, and God be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, your work. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.